By the end of each season of Sex Education, every character has played a wacky game of love interest switcheroo, as they all rotate around each other's boyfriends and girlfriends. Otis can only have a relationship for half a season apparently, can't keep the beast caged for too long. The relationship must end now because the story demands some more drama. The way they write Maeve out of her relationship with Isaac is so uninspired. She cheats on him and he's like, "Goodbye, bitch."
Something happened between you guys on the trip then?
Yeah.
I'm taking my heart off the table.
None of the relationships mean anything because you know it's only in service of the cynical Netflix formula and the shitbait. And it needs to be said, although these people may look like they're in the mid-20s, they are supposed to be 16 to 17-year-olds, and the relationships you have at that age, for the most part, don't mean fuck all. But the Otis and Maeve storyline is treated like it's Casablanca.
He's looking at you, kid.
Teenage relationships aren't everything. Can't there just be one relationship that's always there, nice and understated? You know, every now and then someone asks them, "Oh hey, how are you and Thingy getting along?" And they just respond with, "Yeah, it's alright." In previous seasons there was at least a 50-50 split between the natural slice of life, authentic character development, and the Netflix pandering, the contrived writing habits, the soulless political messages. Season 3 was almost entirely dominated by these latter aspects, however, which is why it's easily the worst season. There's hardly any substance to chew on. I watched it based off of the goodwill of the characters from the first two seasons, the breadcrumbs of authenticity that the actors had just barely managed to elbow past the corporate template.
It's starting again, and it feels like my head's about to explode if it doesn't stop. I just need it to stop, like...
The breadcrumbs that I'm not entirely sure are even there. Again, the show is at its best when it isn't trying to force any deeply profound or ultra-dramatic moments. The best and perhaps only good moment of season 3 is easily the bowling alley double date scene. All four of the characters in this scene are able to slip free of their one-dimensional brands. There's no bullshit conflict going on, no shoddy attempts at social commentary, just teenagers hanging out. Maybe that's the key. All the best coming-of-age teenage movies are just about people hanging out, going about their days with the realistic aimlessness that accentuates that period of your life. Loose frameworks, laid back, fairly whimsical, and yeah, they're at a bowling alley so they play Big Lebowski music, very subtle. The old fuckers ain't Big Lebowski, don't get too carried away. This scene isn't fucking This Is England or anything, but it was such a breath of fresh air for me. Speaking of This Is England, that's a decent comparison to go off for this show. I mean, I haven't seen Skins, so it's gotta be this one. Not strictly talking about season 3, just as a whole. When this show is at its very dramatic best, it just edges into something that almost slightly resembles the quality of a poor man's This Is England. There are some decent performances in here, and moments where the show is at least close to evoking a genuine emotional reaction. Maeve's story is the most reminiscent to a This Is England type character arc. Maeve's whole demeanour and struggle feels very authentic to the life of a British youth. Sex Education opts to have a tone more congruent with an upbeat American high school comedy, but Maeve is emblematic of the gritty English youth culture that is much more realistic. Hence she is easily one of the strongest characters of the whole show. Hanging on in quiet desperation is the English way. Maeve being forced to be entirely self-dependent and the manner in which the show conveys that strikes me as much more genuine compared to all the other stuff. Honestly, it's jarring to think that all of this occurs in the same show as this.
For the fatal lines of these two foes.
You say you're not gonna take her, but you're lying.
Pepper grinder. Milk frother.
I will never forgive you. Never. Do a wee for mummy.
The subplot with Maeve, her mother and younger sister, is far above everything else in the show when it comes to having a weighty emotional resonance. Perhaps one more of the very few good scenes in season 3 was Maeve and Isaac smooching. It was just about those two in that scene. Two of the stronger performers in the show, it seemed like they were left to their own devices. Maeve didn't start mouthing off about how society doesn't cater to the physically disabled enough and then make a change.org petition to get more wheelchair ramps installed in all the McDonald's households in England. The dialogue and the way the scene progressed felt natural. Again, I'm not saying it's as good as This Is England, it's probably not even close, but it just feels like that when you're watching it because the rest of the show is made up of all of this quirky, melodramatic bullshit. And that brings me to another prominent flaw with the show as a whole, a grievance I imagine a lot of people may have with it. It's tone deaf. It jumps back and forth from being serious with intense subject matter, and then having scenes of wacky sexual hijinks. Almost every episode has these out of place and unfunny moments where a particular music beat plays over some quirky, goofy antics that fall so flat.
No, I've got to go and see the docs myself, actually. I've got a bit of a weird sort of chafing thing going on with my ball sack. I think it's my motorbike, but it's really... you didn't need to know that.
You going for a wank, Raheem?
Goofy sex stuff. They for the most part always completely butcher the flow of the episode. I get having this stuff early on in the season, but when the season progresses and gets into the more, quote, deep and serious stuff, it should start to subside. You'll have Maeve finding her mum's secret heroin stash and bursting into tears, and then in the same episode there'd be Otis giving blowjob tutorials. In season 1 there's an episode where Eric gets punched in the face by a homophobic straw man, whilst Otis is off on some Scooby-Doo whodunit bollocks trying to figure out who leaked Ruby's nudes. It's one thing to have shy comedic relief, but then for the comedy to completely undercut the quote emotional weight of the episode is a storytelling disaster. Speaking of Ruby's nudes, for my next point I want to go a little bit more in depth on the appeal of Otis and the show as a whole. So a lot of this show is geared towards playing off a particular emotion that's very common among young teenage lads and a lot of young males in general. First and foremost we have Otis, who is our vessel for experiencing all of these emotions. This is nothing new, audience vessels have been a thing since the dawn of storytelling. Otis is a manifestation of the innocent, shy boy archetype that's embodied by a vast amount of young males in today's society. Socially awkward young lads who love being fed these stories of a shy, jovial teen who through a series of convenient circumstances is given the opportunity to hang out with and get to know the hot, jaded girl. It's a fantasy that so many shy young men can relate to. You get your chance to talk to that intimidating, steely-eyed, attractive girl you never had the balls to speak to in real life. She's had her fill of tyrannical, rough men in her life, but you're here to change that. You're different. You're shy, humble, sensitive. You can provide her with a caring support system because you're honourable and kind. No other boy in existence has ever asked her how she's feeling or what her life at home's like. You're the first ever boy to do that. How considerate of you. You don't just fancy her because she's fit. You fancy her because she's poetic and artistic and shit. No other boy appreciates that side to her, and she falls for you because of how thoughtful you are. This is quite a retarded message to promote to teenagers, but fuck, that's a whole other thing. And this all brings me to my next point, which I'm gonna have to address you, the audience watching, to properly illustrate. I'm chiefly talking to the boys now, the boys. Forget the review for a minute, just put the review down, stop listening to the review, listen to me, look at me, look into my eyes. I know you fancy Ruby. I know at least a part of you got a kick out of seeing Otis, your awkward boy vessel, hook up with the hot popular girl. The inner normie certainly did, and so did a bunch of people online. The fit popular girl. That's what she is. Ruby's appearance appeals to the most default, broad, surface level side to the male romantic mentality. She's ultra attractive, by extremely conventional standards. I know you fucking fancy her. We all have a part of us that does. Her character caters to the very shallowest manifestation of attraction in all of us. I hate to say it, boys, but yeah, I do think she's kinda hot. A very surface level taste when it comes to this sort of thing anyway. I'm pretty sure they just hired a model to play her. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be conventionally attractive, it's just how the show uses her, the atypical ideal girlfriend for the broad population of men. The girl demographic liked it too, however. The online response to their coupling at the end of season 2 could very well have been so positive that the showrunners made sure to put more Otis and Ruby action in season 3. They were well shipped by all of the girlies, so many Instagram edits. Audiences reacted well to quirky Otis being bossed about by sassy, posh Ruby.
Come on. It's his penis.
He's paying for it.
All of those girly memes about having an inflated ego. You're the queen, sister. Haters gonna hate. My eyebrows are on fleek. All that shit. That's what Ruby's entire persona is targeted towards. That's the specific audience it's humouring.
Please don't tell anyone I was here.
I have no idea who you are.
That's impossible. Everyone knows who I am.
So the producers doubled down on the Otis and Ruby shenanigans, and you can see the evidence for that in the first half of season 3. We're given much more fashion-savvy Ruby ripping into how weird Otis is, and Otis being all like, you know what, you're unbelievable, I don't need this.
Why are you walking like that?
This is my walk.
Well, change it.
Fan service, clear as day, and similar to how Otis's and Maeve's relationship played on the broad, shy guy fantasy, Otis's relationship with Ruby does the same. Wow, you're kinda hot shit now. You were the most awkward kid in school not long ago, but now you're dating the fittest, most popular girl in the year, dude. Well played, mate. The fantasy is taken further with the plotline of Otis wanting to get to know the real Ruby. Again, because conveniently you're the first person to do that. Who are you, really? You're so sensitive, you're so caring and introspective. She's never had anyone ask about her home life before.
Well, do you want me to come and help?
Did you want to have sex again?
No, just thought you might want some help with your dad.
Thank you for checking in. A lot of guys don't.
She's had a lot of boyfriends before you, but you're the first person that she says I love you to because you were considerate enough to go to her small house that she's always been too embarrassed to show anyone else. You met her sick dad and helped take care of him. Jesus Christ, girls, if this is true, your standards are fucking low. Like, this is just fucking entry-level empathy. It's such a common trait for shy young men to think of themselves as the attractive girl's saviour. They think that because they're innocent, coy and sensitive, this automatically makes them a good person. They'd make for a gentle, caring boyfriend that will always treat their girl right, not like all of those other fuckboys who just use her for sex. So yeah, I know you fancy Ruby. We all fucking fancy Ruby. I mean, no surprise. Have you seen her? Fucking banging, mate.
The most beautiful babe you're the most gorgeous, very attractive babe in the world ever, who loves to be naked.
Now there's one other big thing about this sex education show that I've been trying to hold off talking about until now, that being the political side to the show. It's always been there throughout all the seasons. Every time it does get political, it does so in a way that is 100% soulless and overt. It's Netflix pandering to the progressive movement that's very prominent in today's young adults, the same age range of people whom this show is marketed towards. They tackle hot topic political issues with no originality, depth or nuance. They're just riding off the most current and trendy social media movements.
I got 3 kids and I feel way more guilty about the ones that I had than the ones I chose not to.
I bit Simon Firthassel's scrote. I had sex with 4 guys at the same time. I fucked my second cousin. I'll give you a handjob for a $5 if you like. This kind of thing sticks.
Please, this isn't me. It's a costume. I was going to see a film with a friend. I'm not.
Do you understand, Liam? No means no. It's an appropriated American tradition that celebrates sexism and peddles an unrealistic portrayal of romantic love.
Fairy tales are all about female suppression.
Everybody knows she put Jamal Jacobs' clarinet up her
Can we please stop slut-shaming?
Oh, not hoofs or anything. Yeah, I was thinking about my girlfriend.
And I was thinking of your girlfriend, you know, with the big tits.
He ran off when he saw my dad, which made me angry because I don't want to be dependent on another man to protect me.
They don't give a shit about any of these things. Real artists are the ones to cover such complex and heavy topics. No piece of artistic storytelling can ever come from the seed of political agenda. The responsible way to go about it is not to come from any side of the political spectrum. Instead, you depict all sides equally. You don't endorse any rigid message, you shine an objective lens over the entire issue. Tell a sympathetic and three-dimensional story. Politics is one-dimensional. It's rigid as fuck. Film is nuanced. So fuck all these corporations like Netflix and Disney depicting these issues with the least amount of delicacy. You're virtually making propaganda, and this is partially the case with Sex Education Season 3. Full to the brim with strawman arguments and simplistic messaging. There's this scene with this ultrasound man who's painted to be a massive gormless dick just so Gillian Anderson can roast him.
It's easy to forget that being an elderly parent can have a negative effect on your children's lives.
Do you have children, Doctor?
Yeah, 2.
And do you think having a king-size arsehole for a father had a negative impact on their lives too?
Yeah.
This show is 18 plus, right? Why do we have this cartoonish oaf on screen? In the following scene, we get this.
It's patriarchy in action, in fact. dissecting a woman's choices in the cruelest manner.
Like, I get the point that she's pissed off, but I can't help but feel like the show is trying to make a statement again. Men bad, masculine men bad. None of these people have done anything wrong, and you're hissing at them just because they're straight white men.
Yes, ignore the pregnant woman and listen to the straight white man, for fuck's sakes.
Kill the straights, kill the straights, kill the straights.
How can I help you?
Oh, that's fantastic. Another one.
Sorry, no, it's not you, it's the other one.
I get it, reverse racism / reverse homophobia / reverse sexism in the direction of straight white men is okay. I mean, is it? People seem to think it is. When it comes to shows like these, however, I always feel like there's some uneducated malice behind the words. Broad, simplistic statements like this aren't helpful.
And listen to the straight white man, for fuck's sakes.
And also, can I just say that Jakob is so hard done by in this show. Jean treats him like absolute shit from the very start of the relationship, and he always just remains calm throughout.
I kissed Remy.
He has excellent patience. He's probably another one of the best characters in the show.
Sorry for being an arsehole.
Yeah. You are a bit of an arsehole.
Where were you?
I told you I was trying to get us some tea.
Well, fuck the fucking tea.
Remember, you're the one who cheated on him and then came crawling back once you found out you were preggers. And please, for the love of fucking God, don't mistake my disdain for this individual character for sexism. Jean acts like an absolute sociopath toward Otis and Jakob, and every time they call her out on it, she takes no accountability for her wrongdoings.
It was one stupid kiss. You really can't forgive me?
She's virtually in denial. The show has accidentally created a narcissist. She sees her son only as an extension of herself.
It's like you want to consume me. You're like the spider mums that eat their own offspring. Like you think I'm somehow part of you.
Well, you are part of me.
Okay, let's check out another Jean and Jakob scene.
I'm actually surprised that you think like this, Jakob. It's so old-fashioned. I mean, next you'll be telling me that you vote Conservative.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Vote Conservative.
Orange man, bad. Blue team, bad. Critique the Conservative Party and the things they do all you want, but don't just outright denounce them absolutely along with all the people who vote Conservative. I, Daniel Blake, is a brilliant film about these sorts of class-related issues. That's a genuine story of an individual. It doesn't have the main character look directly at the camera and say, if only more of you had voted for Corbyn. Episode 4 has a sequence in which multiple students go to the local GP to get helpful sex advice.
The pull-out method can lead to unwanted pregnancy if your partner doesn't pull out in time or some of his sperm gets into your vagina. So long as you and your partner or partners are practicing safer sex, getting tested regularly, you're very unlikely to contract HIV. And it also puts you at greater risk of getting or transmitting an STI. And there's a medication now called PrEP that protects people from contracting HIV if they are engaging in frequent casual sex in situations that might be putting them at high risk.
Okay, this is all just useful information, nothing to dispute here, but what's the point in this being a TV show and not just a sexual health advert? It's just a robotic relaying of facts.
For those that do contract the virus, there's medicines now that enable them to live a long and healthy life and even get to the stage where the virus is undetectable, which means it can't be passed on to somebody else.
This isn't what art's for.
Or some of his sperm gets into your vagina.
I'd like to briefly bring up HBO. HBO have made multiple shows that tackle these controversial issues surrounding masculinity, femininity, sexuality, and teenage life. Euphoria is a magnificent show that pretty much tackles all the same issues as sex education, only in far more creative, interesting, and thoughtful ways. It's also the most visually expressive television show ever made, with a gorgeous soundtrack and remarkable acting. By all means, stay the fuck away from sex education and just watch Euphoria. That's the main takeaway from this video. I mean, it's much more disturbing and depressing than sex education, so maybe not, but if you want a show that depicts teenage life authentically, check it out. The Sopranos, of all shows, tackled homosexuality years ago, again in a natural, mature and delicate manner, at a time where they were actually taking a risk by doing that.
What the fuck? I suppose some inside me says, God bless, I salute. Who gives a shit?
HBO paved the way for all these pussies. Big Little Lies is a great miniseries that's a study of motherhood and rich housewife culture. It both critiques and celebrates multiple aspects of femininity, and again is well acted, nuanced and genuine. What's that other show that HBO did? Wasn't it really big? Oh yeah, Game of fucking Thrones! An excellent dissection of medieval social politics, based off a series of books written by a guy who wrote about such societal issues out of his own personal volition in the fucking 90s, not just because it was what was hot. So HBO seemed to be the go-to platform for artistic storytelling, so for the most part we can put our trust in them while we wait for Netflix to get their shit together.